Greetings, fellow history fans! Today, in 5,000 Years of War, a zoom on war in ancient Greece, plus many other things, of course. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to bolster our new community. I'm the Archivist, here we go. We are at 1400 before Christ, towards the end of the Bronze Age. It is the sorry time of the collapse of the Minoan civilization, with the destruction of Knossos, its heart in the island of Crete. The Achaeans established in Greece could have played a role in this, as well as Mycenaeans, possibly mingled to them, but natural disasters are mostly put forward today. At first, Minoans had apparently not used fortifications, maybe due to the security induced by their insulary habitat. But after the terrible eruption of the Thera, the Santorini in the Aegean Sea, which caused a period of instability and conflicts, they started building some. Minoans were first and foremost traders, notably providing Lebanese cedar wood for Thutmose III of Egypt warships. Ceremonial weapons were, however, found in some of their palaces and tombs. It is the Mycenaean civilization that succeeds to the Minoans in the Aegean Sea, Crete included. This civilization takes its name after its most important city, Mycenae, and several Mycenaean kings, called Wanakas or Wanaxes, reigned simultaneously as small Greek kingdoms. It seems that Wanaka commanded to a Rawaketa, leader of his army, which comprised a Neketa, a band of companions, elite fighters riding 2 or 4-wheeled war chariots. Peasant units were formed to patrol the lands and even the coastal waters, divided into Oka rowers units. As fighting equipment, swords, first for thrusts, later shorter and made for cuts, poniards, spears, javelins, and bronze-tipped arrows, boar tusks helmets with cheek guards and neck protection, leather or bronze scale cuirasses, for aristocrats probably, even large and heavy plate armor, more than likely designed for charioteers, and multiple shield models, wooden or leather, rectangular, H-shaped, and more were found, the number 8 being the symbol of their war goddess. Even inverted pelte shields, downward moon crescent shaped, were found. Mycenaean cities were girded with defensive walls, and fortified outposts were established at strategic points in the lands. From here on, the term Achaeans is mostly limited to designated inhabitants of Achaia in northwestern Peloponnese. Just like 2 centuries from here, Mycenaeans will exclusively designate citizens of Mycenae itself, their civilizations having declined. Spoilers, right? Of course, you had time to admire this beautiful and instructive Santorini Island fresco, we suppose depicting a Mycenaean landing somewhere in Libya. War galleys approach the coastline, and then troops with large shields, boar tusk helmets, pike in hand and sword at the hip, advance inland. Beautiful relic from the past. Tell us in the comments if you've been struck during your life by the discovery of such historical treasures, be it during researches or simply while visiting museums or ancient sites. Around the same time as the vanishing of the Minoans, Hattusa, capital of the Hittites in the heart of Anatolia, is plundered by Gazgaz barbarians under the reign of the Hittite Tudhaliya II, or his father Anuwanda I, who dies of a plague somewhere around here. Despite this event, Tudhaliya II will regain the initiative in several campaigns launched from Samuha, a city east of Hattusa, somewhere over here. Gazgaz are soon thrown back until the shores of the Black Sea to the north. Tudhaliya will then push on against the Mitanni of Artatama I, retaking Kitsuwatna from him and then seizing Aleppo. Talking about Kitsuwatna, it starts being called Cilicia around this point in time. To finish off with this rich turn from the 15th to the 14th century BC, let's visit our Mesopotamian friends. The Babylonian king Kurigalzu I is probably the doom of the secretive Elamite dynasty of the Kiddinuids, its last king, Tepti-Ahar, being dethroned. He called himself king of Anshan and Susa, but Elam is fractured at this epoch. Susa and nearby Kafnak are taken by Kurigalzu the Babylonian, who puts Igehalki, first of the Igehalkids, in power in the region. We will note that Kurigalzu moved during his reign his capital from Babylon to Dur Kurigalzu, close to nowadays Baghdad. Okay, we may advance now. Let's go for a ride like this Egyptian noble on his chariot. In 1397 BC dies Amenhotep II, successor of Thutmose III in Egypt. The Mitanni, northward, being lately occupied against the Hittites, Amenhotep II only had to campaign southward at least once against Nubians, pushing the frontier as far as the fourth cataract of the Nile River. 2 years later, the Hatti of the Hittites brings Arzawa back into their fold, although its king Maduwatas remains in place. And he will soon regain his freedom of maneuver, let's say, as over the course of the next decade, the reign of Tudhaliya II will arrive to its end, and several factions will be at odds in the Hittite capital Hattusa. Later, in 1388 BC, in Babylonia, or Karduniash for its Kassite rulers, King Kadeshman Enlil I must face inner rivalries, mostly between the north and the south of Mesopotamia. Relations with Assyria, northward, are deteriorating too. Kadeshman Enlil will even recognize Assyria as his sovereign before the end of his reign around 1370. The following year, 10 years of reign have led Thutmose IV, 7th pharaoh of the 18th dynasty of Egypt, to Nubia and Amuru in military expeditions from which he brought back tributes paid by local peoples. Through alliances and marriages, he appeased relations with the Hurrians of Mitanni and the Kassites of Babylonia. His son Amenhotep III succeeds him this year in an Egypt in peace and at its peak. Around the same time, the master of the most ancient and still small Jerusalem, Abdi-Heba, asks for Pharaoh's help against Canaanite enemies, among them Labaya of Sichem and Apirus, Semitic nomads, some of them possibly serving Labaya as mercenaries. Abdi-Hera will be disappointed. Egypt will retire its garrison from Jerusalem to Gaza, and maybe even assist his enemies, possibly leading to his downfall. Now, in his 5th year of reign on the throne of Egypt, Amenhotep III must lead a campaign to tame a rebellion at Ibhet, in Nubia, around the 5th cataract of the Nile. One Ikeni has rebelled over there, but things are set back in order. Pharaoh, with the help of his viceroy of Nubia, Merimes, making 500 prisoners and killing 250 insurgents. A fortress is probably built near Kerma at Soleb in these environs. Later, in 1375 BC, starts the reign of Rib-Adi of Byblos on the Phoenician coast. Until late in this century, the Canaanite city, under Egyptian protectorate, is under threat from the Amorite Abdi-Ashirta. More on this later in the video. 1370 BC, somewhere around here, the Lukas, a group of tribes of southwestern Anatolia, launch raids against Egyptian coastal settlements, as well as the east of Cyprus, Alasia back then. The Lucas, aggressive people, had already launched attacks against towns and villages of their immediate surroundings over the course of the previous centuries. They are regularly used by mercenaries by other peoples, like the Hittites, for example, when they are not clashing with them, like current King Tudhaliya II intervening to put an end to their raids on Alazia, Cyprus, from which he gets copper supplies. Let's bounce to 1355 BC, where Hittites, thanks to now late Tudhaliya II and then Suppiluliuma I, are back on top of the food chain in Anatolia. Kazkaz barbarians allied with eastern Isuwa and Ayasa Atsi of the future Armenia are ferociously repulsed by the Hittite troops operating from Samuha and maybe Sapinuwa. Suppiluliuma I leads his armies, maybe twice, into the heart of Mitanni against its king Tushrata, who's backed by Itur Adu of Alala, his vassal, and had probably earlier attacked Hatti. Victorious on the battlefield, Suppiluliuma almost takes Mitanni's capital, Wasugani, and secures Kitsuwatna and Aleppo, reaffirming Hittite control over the entirety of Anatolia. It is the start of the Hittite New Kingdom. Suppiluliuma will receive tokens of allegiance from Shatiwatza, king of declining Mitanni, a few years from here. The Arzawa of King Tarunta Radu will attack the south of the empire, but without gravity. We'll note that in the same period, thanks to the setbacks suffered by Mitanni, Assyria starts fighting energetically for its independence that will be achieved in the coming decades with the advent of Assur-uballit I. Much crazy stuff on the following year or around it. The Amorite Abdi Ashirta has recently tried to ally with the Hittites of Tudhaliya III to harm Byblos of Kinglet Rib Adi. But after taking Ambia, Sigata, Arcata, and Batruna, Abdi Ashirta is abducted and assassinated by the Egyptians of Amenhotep IV. His son Aziru of Amuru continues actions against Byblos. At some point, Ribadi of Byblos loses his throne to his brother Rapi Ili while he is away to settle some treaty with Amunira of Beritos or Beruth. Ribadi calls Egypt for help, and Pharaoh Amenhotep IV finds nothing better than ordering Aziru of Amuru, his best enemy, to help him. Of course, Aziru, finding the perfect occasion to triumph over Byblos, betrays and probably delivers poor Ribadi to the Sidonites, who like him not. The Byblosian probably dies soon after in Sidon. All this, though unfortunately with many shady spots, is known through correspondence of the time called the Letters of Amarna. They teach us that a bloody coup occurred in Tyre II, south of Byblos, and that an Egyptian officer, Pihuri, had several Byblosians and Chardane mercenaries serving the city killed for an unknown reason. More on the Chardanes later. Talking about mercenaries, some Nubian mercenaries called Pitatis, a corps of archers, was regularly used by Egypt during these times to assist vassals of Levant. In any case, it is the most advanced date proposed for the end of Amenhotep IV, called Akhenaten, reign over Egypt. Despite some social unrest in the country and a tense situation abroad, not only in Levant, but also between Hittites allied with Kadesh and Mitannians allied with Egypt but vanquished, Amenhotep avoided being directly involved in any war, except maybe a minor defeat of some troops near Kadesh, but then possibly mercenaries, not Egyptian-born soldiers. This was a real equilibrium game that Pharaoh played, seeing Aziru of Amuru subduing many places like Amia, Ardata, Arcata, Walia, Katna, Tunip, Nicha, and Sumur, and even allying with Kadesh. He had him imprisoned before releasing him when Hittites advanced in Amuru, taking Amki. Of course, then, instead of playing his buffer role in Muru, Aziru immediately resumed his own scheming, allying with Arwad to seize Damascus for himself. For his efforts, it was the Hittites that then conquered him. To end for good with Amenhotep IV, he even delayed in sending help to one Akitsi of Katna, attacked by Hittites or local Arameans. Akitsi was beaten, its subjects deported to Hattusa, the Hittite capital. A certain Tutankhamun is the new pharaoh in Egypt. But before meeting the most famous pharaoh of all time, we will mention in 1349 BC the end of Amistamru's II's reign in Ugarit. We know that he had required some help from Egypt against an unknown threat during his time in power. His successor, Nikmadu II, will have to recognize Hittite domination soon, while other kinglets of the region, like Ituradu of Alala and Adunirari of Nuhashe, will vainly try to rebel against it. Alright, you wanted him? You have him. Tutankhamun, last but one pharaoh of the 18th dynasty of glorious Egypt. In 1346 BC, he's been 8 years on the throne, and he dies. What? So popular today? So praised and only 8 years in power? Well, yes, and guess what? Even if he fancied, as was the tradition in ancient Egypt, representing himself as a fearless warrior, he probably never fought himself, being born with a handicap. Moreover, during his short reign, Egypt lost lands in Amuru to the Hittites of Suppiluliuma I, who took Carchemish, Alala, where he erected a new citadel, Ugarit, Kadesh, Byblos, and Damascus, these last two under direct Egyptian protectorate. Not that glorious, King Tut, hey? So Tutankhamun actually probably let his master of diplomacy, Horemheb, to lead his campaigns in his stead. A veteran of expeditions under Amenhotep IV, Horemheb led at least one in Nubia, southward, and possibly one in Libya, westward. But let us let Tut's legend be and just admire these paintings on a wooden chest found in his tomb. He is represented leading his war chariots in combat against Asians using chariots themselves, and Egyptian infantrymen and dogs of war are visible in the fray too. On this other side of the chest, it is a Nubian campaign that is displayed this time, with warriors strongly reminiscent of 3,000 years later Zulus of South Africa, right? Thank you for your fidelity. Don't forget to leave a like and a comment to help the channel grow, of course. I see you all in the next video where empires will collide. Have a great day or night.